Hello and welcome to Tell the People, a program about our Catholic faith with news and information in and around the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette. I'm Stephanie Bernard. In today's show, Trista Littell interviews Carol Menard about the upcoming pro-life oratory contest, while Michael Champine's talk is about reconciliation in the segment What It Means to Be Catholic. And in a conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald, Monsignor Richard Green interviews Bishop Gerald about pastoral outreach. And now, Catholic news on this December 11th weekend. The Child Smile program provides gifts to children whose parents are currently incarcerated. Surplus gifts are also distributed through local service centers. Donated gifts should be new, wrapped, and properly labeled as to whether it is intended for a girl or a boy within the age categories of infant to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 6 to 8 years, 9 to 12 years, or teenager. Donated gifts should be received by the office no later than Monday, December 12th. The 11th annual O Holy Night pageant will be held on Friday, December 15th at St. Bernard's Church in Broadbridge. The pageant is scheduled to begin at 6:30 p.m. and all are invited to this evening that reminds us Jesus is the reason for the season. Youth from both St. Bernard's and St. Francis of Assisi Parish will portray biblical characters as they act out the prophecy, annunciation, visitation, nativity, and epiphany. The Lafayette Diocesan Office of Justice and Peace is organizing a bus trip to Angola State Penitentiary on Sunday, December 18th. This trip is being offered free of charge to those in need of transportation to visit their incarcerated loved ones during the Advent season. The bus will depart from the parking lot of St. Paul the Apostle Church in Lafayette. Snacks, bag lunches, and other refreshments will be provided for the passengers, also at no cost. However, donations will be accepted to help defray the expenses. To reserve a seat, call 261-5545. The Christmas season traditionally is a time to celebrate the love of family, which includes all our brothers and sisters throughout the Catholic Church. To remind us all of this, the Lafayette Diocese is promoting its annual Come Home for Christmas message in all church parishes throughout the area. Active Catholics are encouraged to participate in the program by reaching out to those who have strayed from their faith and inviting them to attend Christmas Mass with their families and loved ones during this special time of the year. Coming up next, Trista Littell interviews Carol Menard about the upcoming pro-life oratory contest.
Welcome to Inside the Diocese. I'm Trista Littell, and with me here today is Carol Menard, Director of the Office of Pro-Life Apostolate. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Trista. It's so good to be here.
Well, you're going to be here to talk to the audience about the Diocese of Lafayette's Pro-Life Oratory Contest. What is this Pro-Life Oratory Contest?
Well, the Pro-Life Oratory Contest is an annual event, and it provides the opportunity for high school juniors and seniors to organize, to express, and to share their pro-life views with others. It also gives them an opportunity to meet other pro-life teens from other schools in our diocese. Every year, the Pro-Life Oratory Contest is held on 3 different levels. On the local level here in the Diocese of Lafayette, and then we have the state level for the Louisiana representation, and then the national level. The winner of the Diocese of the Lafayette Oratory Contest is eligible to compete at the Louisiana State Contest, and then the state winner goes on to participate in the National Right to Life Oratory Contest.
Carol, who's eligible to participate in the local event?
Well, it's a non-denominational event, so all high school juniors and seniors in that grade February 1st of the year of the national contest are eligible to compete. In case of the advanced students or non-traditional students or homeschooled students, the school must recognize the student as a junior or a senior the year the student will enter college. That's going to be used to determine their eligibility. Students who have competed in their junior year may compete again the following year as seniors with an entirely new speech, except if the student has won first place in the national contest as a junior. That student may not compete again.
Well, tell us about the different topics that they might want to speak on.
Well, the contestants are invited to research and to present, to write and present an original pro-life speech on the tragedy of abortion, the tragedy of infanticide or euthanasia, or embryonic stem cell research. The speech should address one of these topics, directly using other topics only as a support.
Now, how are the rules structured, Carol?
Well, the speech must be 5 to 7 minutes in length. A contestant is going to be disqualified if the speech is timed to be less than 4 minutes or more than 8 minutes in length. Judges are instructed to use their judgment regarding under or over time limit speeches. It is the judge's discretion how the 4 to 5 minute and the 7 to 8 minute speech will reflect their score. Appropriate gestures are allowed, but no props or visual aids are allowed. The contestant should use up-to-date factual information, and they don't have to memorize the speech. They can use note cards if they wish. And if we have an abundance in contestants like we had one year, each group will have 3 judges and a timekeeper.
Now, what is the criteria used in judging this, Carol?
Well, 2/3 of the judging criteria is attributed to what we call contest standards. For example, a clear thesis and a sense of direction in the speech, a logical, clear organization of the speech, and good word usage. And then 1/3 of the judge's criteria is going to be attributed to what we call delivery standards. For example, the general sense of confidence that they're going to portray, and eye contact and fluent delivery. The judges score the contestants in 4 areas: the introduction, the content, presentation, and conclusion. The contestants are given a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best in each area. Then the scores are added together, 40 being the perfect score. The judges' scores are added together for the grand total, and the grand total will determine which contestants move on to the next level. And the judges' decisions are always final.
And it's such a hard decision. You and I were talking earlier about we've been doing this since 2001, and they have they all have such great speeches. It's so hard to decide who's going to be first, second, or third. But we've been blessed that in the last years our contestants have won at the state level on numerous occasions.
They've been we've had such talented response. As a matter of fact, Eric Manuel from St. Thomas More won our local contest one year and went on to state, and he won that and then represented our diocese at the national level. And then for the past 2 years, homeschooler Christina Zarang won the local contest here in the Diocese of Lafayette and then won the state contest and represented us at nationals and came in very close. So we've been abundantly blessed with good contestants, good students.
And also I noticed that this year's UL homecoming queen was Megan Roberts, who was also a first place contestant in the oratory contest, and Danielle Cottenham was on the court, and she too had placed one year at the diocesan level. So it's exciting to see our youth represented, you know, out in the diocese.
So we can claim that the Pro-Life Oratory Contest is a stepping stone for them to excel in other activities and areas in the community.
Well, when and where will our local diocesan contest take place, Carol?
It's going to happen on Wednesday, January the 11th, 2012 at the Diocese of Lafayette Immaculata Center, whose physical address is 1408 Carmel Drive, Lafayette. It's off the old Bro Bridge Highway. and it's going to begin at 6 p.m. and it usually ends around 9 p.m.
Well, we certainly do want to invite all of our juniors and seniors in the Diocese of Lafayette to participate in this contest. And I want to thank you for being with us here today, Carol. And folks, we want you to stay tuned because there's more to come on Tell the People.
Thank you, Trista and Carol. Coming up next, Father Michael Champine's talk is about reconciliation in the segment, What It Means to be Catholic.
Good morning, and welcome back to Tell the People, to our special series on what it means to be Catholic. If you've been with us for the past few Sundays, you will recall that we're reviewing the sacrament of reconciliation and penance, sacrament of the Father's mercy, the sacrament of confession, that beautiful sacrament in which we are renewed, that sin is remitted from our souls, that we're increasing God's sanctifying grace, then we're given medicine grace to heal the wounds that have been caused by sin so that we can become more and more conformed to Christ. And so this particular session, we want to look at maximizing the effects of the sacrament. First thing we want to look at is, in order to maximize the effects of the sacrament, we should be using the sacrament. And there's certainly a disuse of the sacrament today. This crisis came a number of years ago, certainly after Vatican II, the sacrament fell into disuse. So much so that John Paul II of happy memory, our Holy Father, called a synod in Rome and wrote a document, post-synodal document called Reconciliation and Penance, Reconciliatio et Penitentia, where he treated this crisis of the sacrament of confession. And he says that it had a number of reasons why people, Catholics, are no longer going to confession. And one of them, he says, a faulty influence of the behavioral sciences. Not against the behavioral sciences, because we've made great advances in psychology, psychiatry, and anthropology in the last several decades. However, the negative or kind of pop psychology, it holds that a feeling of guilt is bad, and that we shouldn't speak about sin because sin causes guilt, and guilt is bad. Well, sin has this effect in pricking the conscience, and guilt itself, the feeling of guilt, if there is real guilt, real sin, then there should be a real negative feeling, a real discomfort, which is in itself a pledge of returning to Almighty God. It's like your little indicator on the car that says seatbelts unfastened, or you see low oil pressure, or temperature hot. We could cut the wire to remove that irritating sound and yet burn the engine, or yet get ejected from the vehicle. But rather, it's an indication to pull over, being irritated by that sound, and to be restored to the peace of getting the problem resolved, going to confession. Also, there's been a loss of the sense of sin. Pope Pius XII, in a radio message to the United States, said once, the sin of the century is the loss of the sense of sin. Not so much the terrible abortions or the Holocaust, and all these things are terrible abominations. But what's even worse is that we can do these things and get a good night's sleep, not even be sensitive to it. And so we've lost the sensitivity of sin in our lives. In fact, our sensitivity to God is directly proportional to sensitivity to sin, because sin is an offense against God. And so the closer I get to God, the more sensitive I'll be to sin in my life. And the further a generation, a society comes from God or goes from God, then less they'll feel uncomfortable about sin. And though this certainly is our situation today. Another reason, we priests have made ourselves perhaps less accessible. We have to do so many things, and oftentimes time in the confessional is what suffers or what immediately gets decreased. And so we priests need to be more accessible and spend time in the confessional so that you'll see its importance as well as have the access to come and receive the sacrament. Fourthly, we certainly have a rise of individualism in the West, certainly in our country and our own lives, that we want to go straight to God. We don't need mediators in our own estimation. We've become a bit Protestant in our Catholic theology.